This isn't a tip, it's a psychological shockwave, a message for anyone who still believes respect is given freely. People like to pretend that respect is built through confidence, charisma, or dominance, but the truth is more brutal, more primal, and much less talked about. Respect, real respect, is not earned because people like you. It's earned because they trust your emotional framework. It's built on the feeling that you are grounded enough to not collapse under pressure, steady enough to not lose composure, and aware enough to choose the right emotional posture in every interaction. And out of all the emotions humans express, there is one that instantly destroys that perception. It instantly erases authority, weakens your presence, and signals to people, whether consciously or unconsciously, that you're not someone they have to take seriously. That emotion is desperation. But before we go deeper, I need you to understand something clearly. Desperation is not a feeling. It's a signal, a psychological broadcast that tells people exactly how much power they hold over you. And once you show it, even subtly, you lose the room. Humans are biologically wired to feel repelled by desperation. Not because we're cold, but because desperation signals danger, instability, and unpredictability. Think about it. A desperate animal is either injured, hungry, or cornered. And those animals make the worst decisions. In the human world, desperation tells others, you have no leverage. You have no alternatives. You have no emotional control. You have no internal stability. It communicates that you are not operating from strength, but from fear. And people, even good people, instinctively trust strength more than they trust fear. This is why the calmest voices win arguments, why the person who cares the least controls the dynamic, and why someone who appears independent always gets treated with more respect. We respect what we think cannot be easily shaken. Desperation does the opposite. It tells the world, I can be moved, manipulated, and controlled. This isn't philosophy. It's psychology. It's survival. Most people don't show desperation openly. Nobody walks around saying, please validate me. Please love me. Please choose me. But desperation leaks out in subtle behaviors, and those are even worse, because they reveal your internal state without your permission. There are three primary psychological forms of desperation. Phase 1. Emotional overexposure. This is when you reveal more than the moment requires. Oversharing, over-apologizing, over-explaining, over-expressing affection or attachment too early. It feels like honesty, but it reads as instability. Humans are drawn to depth, not leakage. When you spill everything without being asked, people don't think, wow, this person is so real. They think, why do they need me to fill this emotional void? Respect fades. Interest fades. Power evaporates. Because emotional control is a currency, and oversharing is burning money. Phase 2. Approval addiction. Most people don't even realize how desperate they look when they try to avoid disappointing others. You know this behavior. Laughing too hard at jokes that aren't funny. Agreeing with opinions you don't actually share. Saying yes when you want to say no. Constantly checking if someone is upset with you. This is the desperation of acceptance. But here's the hidden danger. People never respect the person who bends. They respect the one who stands firm. You don't need to be rude, but you must be willing to disappoint people when necessary. Having boundaries is not arrogance, it's emotional maturity. And ironically, the moment you stop chasing approval is the moment people start giving it to you freely. Phase 3. Fear of loss. This one is the deadliest. It shows up in relationships, friendships, work environments, everywhere. This is when you start acting differently because you're afraid of losing someone or something. You become nicer, quieter, more agreeable, more submissive. Not because it's who you are, but because you're terrified of the alternative. And people can sense that. Humans can smell fear of loss the way animals smell blood. When you show fear of losing someone, you give them the psychological upper hand. When you show fear of losing an opportunity, you tell others you're replaceable. Respect dies the moment your fear becomes visible. Let's talk about the subconscious equation that every human brain runs on autopilot. When someone sees desperation in you, their mind says, "This person needs me more than I need them." And the moment that equation is activated, three things happen internally. They stop valuing you as highly. They stop listening to you with full attention. They stop viewing you as someone they should impress or please. Because now the dynamic has shifted. Now they have the power. And here's the twist. People don't even do this intentionally. It's instinct. It's the ancient wiring of social hierarchy. Respect isn't built on kindness. It's built on emotional scarcity, not in a manipulative way, but in a self-contained way. The person who is not desperate is perceived as the person who does not need anyone to approve their identity. That is the foundation of respect. If desperation is the emotion that destroys respect, then what emotion builds it? It's not confidence. It's not arrogance. It's not indifference. It's composure. Composure is the calm, steady emotional state that says, "I will be okay whether you choose me or not. I will be okay whether this works out or not. I will be okay because my worth is not on the line." Composure is not a performance. It's a mindset. And people trust composure because it communicates. You are emotionally stable. You are not impulsive. You have internal grounding. You are not ruled by fear. You cannot be easily manipulated. Composure is the emotional posture of someone who has self-respect first and social respect second. Here's why composure is so powerful. When you regulate your emotions, people regulate their behavior around you. Think about the people you respect most. They don't rush. They don't chase. They don't overreact. They don't fold. They don't bargain for attention. They don't reveal emotional chaos. They don't demand validation. They are just steady. And that steadiness forces other people to level up. It forces them to be more thoughtful, more respectful, more careful. Your emotional tone dictates the tone of the entire interaction. This is why calm people win arguments. This is why the quiet person in the room holds power. This is why the person who speaks last often speaks with the most influence. Composure is not passive. It is active psychological dominance. You can't stop feeling desperation, you're human. But you can stop showing it. And that's the key. Here are the psychological tools you need. Tool 1. Emotional delay. When something triggers you: rejection, conflict, someone pulling away, delay your response. Delayed reaction equals controlled perception. People respect those who think before reacting. It signals maturity, intelligence, and inner power. Tool 2. Reduce availability. Not in a petty or manipulative way, but in a self-protective way. Respect grows in the space where you are not constantly accessible. Give your time with intention, not desperation. Tool 3. State your boundaries without apology. A boundary followed by an apology is not a boundary. It's a negotiation. Say it clearly. Say it calmly. And say it once. People respect clarity. They exploit weakness. Tool 4. Become comfortable with silence. Silence is power. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. Silence shows you are not emotionally flooding the room. When you use silence, you shift the dynamic completely. Tool 5. Let people walk away. This is the hardest practice of all, but it is the one that transforms your entire presence. When someone realizes you won't collapse if they leave, you become someone they can no longer take lightly. Your willingness to lose something becomes your leverage. Now let's go deeper into the unconscious origins. Most adults who struggle with desperation weren't desperate because of adulthood. They became desperate because of their childhood environment. Specifically, homes where love was inconsistent, parents who made affection conditional, environments where you had to earn attention, families where emotional validation was rare, situations where your worth was tied to performance, childhoods where rejection felt catastrophic. You grew up learning that losing someone meant losing safety. So now, Whenever someone pulls away, your nervous system panics. That is not your fault. It is conditioning. But here's the empowering truth. As an adult, you can recondition your mind. You can teach yourself that rejection is survivable, disapproval is tolerable, and abandonment is not fatal. Self-respect is the antidote to childhood-derived desperation. Here's the paradox. You gain respect the moment you no longer seek it. When you stop performing, when you stop chasing, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop over-investing emotionally, when you stop fearing disconnection, when you start showing people, I am here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. That is when your presence becomes powerful, because people respect choice, but they lose interest the moment they sense emotional hunger. If you take nothing else from this entire video, remember this. You never lose respect from the emotion you feel. You lose it from the emotion you show. People can forgive your anger. People can forgive your sadness. People can forgive your frustration. But desperation, they never forget. Because desperation tells them you're operating from fear, not strength. And humans, no matter how kind, instinctively disrespect fear. So if you want to build a life where people treat you with seriousness, where your voice carries weight, and where your presence commands attention, never show desperation. Not because you're trying to manipulate people, not because you're trying to hide your emotions, but because you respect yourself enough to express your feelings with composure, not collapse. You are allowed to want things. You are allowed to love deeply. You are allowed to care. You are allowed to desire connection. You are allowed to fear loss that makes you human. Just don't hand that fear to others. Feel everything, but show only what reflects your strength, not your wounds. Because the world responds not to the emotions inside you, but to the ones you let escape.